Hold on, we in there. Here we go. Here we go. Live,
Ripping in the
live, and in
sky.
color.
Live and in color.
All right, gentlemen, here we are live Thursday night. Let's get this. We got Devo. Hopefully, will be here really soon. Maybe pull off on the side of the road. We don't know, but exciting one tonight. In fact, I think it's a good one. Topic going to be tonight is going to be helping our kids develop a positive mindset. Eric, we're going to start with you because you actually said that you were kind of having this conversation with the wife
Yeah, it's
earlier.
crazy. And coming live to you guys from Charleston, South Carolina tonight. As you can tell, double beds. But
Yeah.
yeah, we were driving down talking about this because Josh and I work in the financial services industry, and financial literacy is really important. And there's obviously different elements of the growth mindset with your children, but this one in particular kind of hits home because what's the right age to begin start teaching your kids about finances and being generous and having not just a growth mindset around finances, but just having a generous heart around giving and serving. And so we were kind of structuring spring breaks coming up for the kids. And so part of it was that we have already kind of lined out places that we're going to do some community service, but also build in some time where it's just dad and the boys to kind of set the stage in small doses for things that they can understand about saving and tithing and giving and being philanthropic at 7 and 10. So that this topic really resonates because we've been thinking about it quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the big question is when are they, you want to teach them those things as early as you can, but how much of it do they get? And I think that's each child takes it, obviously they say girls mature faster than us boys do, so maybe that's a little bit sooner. But I have a flip side on mine. My son's, he's tighter than, bark on a tree. Like he's tighter than I am, like saving his money. He's got money saved, and his sister's like, what, I got $6 in my pocket. Like I'm gonna go get a coffee that's $5.99 because I don't want to spend it all when it comes to the money piece of it. But I think it's as early as we can get them those lessons, but you don't want it obviously to go over their head to where when you do feel like you've gotten them there and you can have those conversations as they go, whether it's, I told you guys about going to this, grocery store. Hudson's like, well, we can get this one and it's 40 cents cheaper or whatever. Does it go over their head and then it becomes a burden for them, and then it feels like it's jammed down their throat? So I think it's each kid is a little bit different, but if as soon as they start showing interest, I think it's almost like sports. They start showing an interest in sports, you want them to, all right, let's play it. And then if they show an interest in doing all those things, whether it's money or a job or things like that, if they show interest, we as parents want to push them towards that, but it's almost a push, but you want to kind of rein them back a little bit too, so you don't, just force it on them either.
Yeah, I look at growth mindset in a lot of different ways. What you guys talking about with the money mindset and teaching them about that sort of stuff. But I also look at it as, and mine are older, right? So it's you want the best for your kids. You've said it many times, Josh. You want your kids to be better than you. And so when I think about that, it's like I always felt like it was my job to push my kids and to teach them to have a good positive mindset, and that they could do whatever they set their mind to. You know, and I mentioned it last week. When you talk about Braden, he's doing well with Milwaukee Tools. Wonderful girlfriend. Probably be his wife one day, if he's lucky. And then you got Megan, who's in medical school and doing great. But how do you and then Lainey, doing great over in Florence, Italy, studying UNC. How do you
Bless her
push
freaking heart.
it's
Bless
tough
her heart
living.
in Italy.
It's tough living. Spring break was last week. I apologize. She was in Morocco. I mean, come on. But how do you push yourself? How do you get your kids? And I'm very proud of my kids. How do you get your kids to know that they can operate and go at it from a high level? And I'm going to say with my family it's been catch 22, and we can talk about that a little bit during this show because and they're pushing. at such a high level, then what happens when they don't reach that high level or they
Right.
have some failure? How do they handle that failure? So I want to get in and talk a little bit about that, like helping your kids through those failure points, because I think that's, you have to help your kids through the failure points to get them back into a growth mindset so they don't feel like a failure and they don't quit
Yeah.
them. Go
Man,
ahead.
that's happening right now because even with my 7-year-old, we're having to adjust his language to things where he's easily says, "Well, I can't do something." So mom says real quickly, um, "Yet," add "yet" to the end of that. So
Yeah.
now he's starting to say, "Well, I can't do something yet." And
Yeah.
so with trial, error, and repetition, there are certain things he'll be able to do. Funny thing, just yesterday, I had the boys go upstairs. It was just loud, so I just want to go upstairs and do some homework. And I knew that Evan had a book in his book bag, and I was like, "Hey, take that book up there and read that book while you're waiting on your brother to finish." But I went in the bag and got the book, and I was like, "You can't read this book. It looked, like it might have been a 4th or 5th grade book or whatnot." And he said, "No, I can read the book. I can read it." And I said, I tell you what." I picked him up and put him on the counter, and I said, here's the book. Read me this page here. Let me see that you can read it." And he took off just reading the book. And I said, "Look at this. This 7-year-old can read a 5th grade book. I'm going upstairs, take the book with you." So I love the fact that mom has really conditioned him to add "yet" to the end of the sentence. So he says, "I can't do something." He says, "I can't do something yet." And that's really setting him up for that growth mindset mentality. And I absolutely love it. But that's all mom's doing.
Yeah.
Right. That's because she's in the room. Now you want to make sure that we know what's going on.
Yeah.
We know what's going on with Aaron. We know you're trying to get some brownie points.
Yeah, that's right.
But, I mean, I got the, with Hudson, just with the sports side of things, like school stuff, man, school's a breeze for him. Like he's got like I don't even know what he has, 4.1 GPA as a 9th grader. Like no homework, no studying. He's like, "I think I got this tomorrow." I'm like, "Do you not write it on the calendar?" Nah. He comes home. He's like, "I think I got extra, I got 105. And I'm like, "What? You didn't even know you had one this morning." But with sports is the problem with him is he thinks that, we're basketball, soccer people. So I didn't score today. So I'm like, "Hey man, good job. Good defense. Good this. I didn't score." And he's down. Or soccer, I'm like, "Your defense." He's like, "Well, I didn't score. I didn't touch the ball. I didn't do this." I'm like, so that's the issue I'm rolling with now is trying to figure out that short-term memory. Like you got to have a short-term memory. It's almost like, I mean, Matt, baseball. Like my dad used to preach that to me all the time. Like next play. If I hit 3 out of 10 balls, I'm in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Like you've got to have this short-term memory. And I think and kids get so, and adults do it too, so hard on ourselves. And he's me. Like I want perfection all the time, whether it's relationships, my day, the podcast or a post or, conversations. I want it all to be perfect. And my therapist is like, "Josh, you're a detriment to yourself because it's not going to be." And then I see him doing that with sports. And I'm like, man, like, I was like, I'm like, "Listen, I'm talking to me, bro. Like I'm talking to me too." And he's like, "What?" And I'm like, "I do the same thing. Your dad or your grandfather, my dad used to say the same thing to me." I said, "But I wasn't as hard on myself as you to the negative point of it. I was hard on myself, but I could flip it off." Yeah. He's not there yet. And that's what I'm struggling with is him not being like, "Well, I didn't score today, so I'm gonna be done." No, you didn't score today because you didn't get the ball like next.
Yeah. First I'll say hey to Amy and we'll get to what
What's up, Amy?
Hey, Jody.
What up, Amy? Jody's in tonight. J-Dub.
Tonight. Hey, that we struggle with that too. And we talked about sports. We always talk about sports, and I think that's important. But it's a shift in that mindset, right? Hey, well, so you're a defender. Did they score? Did you personally let up any goals? Yeah, it doesn't matter if you score. You can have your team win if you don't let the other team score in soccer, and those are important things. So, how much on defense did you shut your players down on the basketball court? All those different things are so important. And I think it took a while with Braden to get that mindset, the mindset that he would get frustrated with his teammates And it was like, okay, don't get frustrated with teammates because you're going to be the next one to give it away.
Right.
And then
Yep.
he would give it away, and I'd be like, yeah, there we go.
Yep.
Told you so. So, going through that leadership with Braden, man, he, of course, I'm a Marine, so he got beat up with leadership, and how to lead his whole life. But, he was a captain his, senior year. He was captain his senior in high school, but he was captain his junior and senior year at Guilford College in soccer. So being a leader and learning that in sports where it can take you with that mindset in life is very important. I want to go back to something you said though, Eric, man, I'm going to be honest. We talking about professional dads, right? Well, let's just go ahead and be honest. My kids wouldn't be where they are if it weren't for Tisha. And there is no question about that. I mean, the things, we were very fortunate. It was a lot of hard work and we made things happen, but she didn't work for a number of years. So she was there spending that time with the kids and laying down those, for that foundation while I was running all over the place and traveling. And man, I'm convinced that they wouldn't be where they were. But I was eating dinner with her tonight and we were talking about this topic. And I said, well, what do you think about growth mindset and all that? And she said, well, she flipped it. And she said, I'm going to give you a lot of credit because you're always the positive one. You're the one who has the positive mindset around the house, and I'm the negative one always. And so, we balance each other out because if I came in harsh and came in a little bit negative, you were always there to pick them back up in a positive mindset way. And I think that's
more importantly. Did you have Gary Chapman at the restaurant tonight?
Yeah, right. I did have Gary Chapman at the restaurant. I didn't talk to him, but I said I was sitting there with Tisha. And they walked
right
in.
here. Come on. Matt's coming in again.
Walked in. I said, hey, there's my people. There's my people.
Just happened to be around them.
Just happened to be around Mr. Five.
I go to this place called the Carriage House. In Carriage House, Winston-Salem, every Thursday night, man, they have country style steak. And it is so good. But guess what? Mr. and Miss Chapman
must like it too.
On Thursday night. Everybody goes on Thursday night for the country style steak, baby.
Thursday. He was telling
Eric,
stories.
You know who wasn't there? You know who wasn't there? Me and you. We wasn't there.
Right.
That's right. Y'all welcome.
One of these times we're going to do it.
Yes,
I'm trying to figure out what's going on with Devo, man. All I see is the black square over here. I mean, what's he doing? Hold up. Devo.
Hey, while we're waiting on him, next time I come down there on Thursday and bring my book, someone walk by and say, "What's up, Matt? Where is he? Where is he?"
Yeah, exactly.
Right, just holding it close to your chest, like Matt.
Next thing I come down, we're going Thursday night. Thursday night, everybody's got to come in. We're going to go to the Carriage House.
Hey, but you're right, man. I mean, it's a partnership in our house too, because I know that I can't take any of the credit, just a little smidget, because I know how much Aaron pours into the boys and whatnot. But we recognize the relationships that we play in their lives. I mean, I'm kind of, I think we talked about that sweet and salty in one of the podcasts. I know there are times when I have to be the heavy, but there's also times when she has to lay the smack down too, and more so just in a look than anything, because they can.
That's a mom thing.
It is, man.
Mom thing.
And they can see that disappointment with that look, that they've done something, and that to me, when you're looking at growth, it's all encompassing, because that has that discipline, those habits, those things where you don't want to let your parents down, and they recognize the roles that you play, the influence that you have in their life and things of that nature. And to me, it's just setting the expectation for what I want to see happen. Because I know this is going to sound sappy, but I say it anyway. I find myself many times of the day seeing them at 18 or seeing them at 21.
Yeah.
Because I did it all my professional life. We're working with athletes, and I used to tell them, I said, you got to see yourself in the job you want. You got to see yourself in the intern that you're aspiring to get. You have to see yourself in the career that you're shooting for. And now that I can say that and apply that to my own kids, I find myself daydreaming about 10 years from now, 15 years from now. And so this topic resonates because it's, we've talked about ego before. Some of it is like, man, I just want to hit a home run. I want to get a couple bunts, get a single, get a triple when it comes to their growth, and just to see what they might look like, how they may act and feel, 10 years from now.
Yeah.
like you said, that the look is just a sign of growth too. I mean, it goes from, hey, mom said this, dad said this, to now all of a sudden it's like, all right, they've graduated with me from saying something to now it's just like the look, and they're like, okay. Then you don't even have to say anything. That's just growth on all aspects. Then you get to a point where you just don't even have to look. Like they just know better, regardless of what that is. But
well, I can.
But I think it's all. Yeah.
I can remember having a conversation with Megan when she was saying, "Hey, I want to go to medical school, and I want to do this." And it's like, what kind of doctor you want to be? And it's back in the day where we had gone through some ups and down years, and those bad business partners and all that stuff, and some frustrating times. And I never held any of that back from my kids. Hey, life's not always easy. You're going to get knocked down. You got to get back up, and you got to fight hard. But one of the things I said to Megan in that, I said, don't, and this isn't meant to be mean, but I said, if you're going to go be a doctor, be a doctor. Go be what you want to be is what I was getting at, And, like today, this week, she started in her rotations in the hospital, and she's in plastic surgery the next 2 weeks, and then she's surgery through the end of June. And she kind of, right now in her mind, she wants to be a plastic surgeon and stuff like that. And, and she wants to, in her mind right now, she wants to help, women with breast cancer, which I know near and dear, to you, Eric, and stuff. But, when you get a picture like this, and I showed Josh this earlier, but that's her in her scrubs, and she's showing off her compression socks. When you get a picture like that, and it's in the afternoon, man, that's a pride picture. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
that is a pride picture.
Yeah.
When you see,
well, I think one of the big things too, Matt, you said it, like her reaching out. I mean, as our kids get older, or even now, like, and I've talked about it on here before too, like she's sending you that out of the blue, or you guys having a conversation about something, they send it out of the blue, or conversations with Braden. Like if I'll I think it was yesterday, like just get busy with the day, don't have Hudson, all that stuff, and then last night before he goes to bed, it's like, hey, Dad, hope you had a good day, good night, I love you. And I'm like, dang, like that's that. That growth of like, hey, I want to hear from you. I want to hear. And he took it upon himself to be like, hey, Dad usually texts, and I usually do, like before school, after school, all that stuff. But he didn't tonight. He didn't, he's not, maybe he is judging me. I don't know. Like, Dad forgot about me tonight. Doesn't matter. He's like, hey, hope you had a good day, Dad. I love you. Good night, whatever. And I think that's this huge part of just having them watch us live, and watch us interact with other people, and watch us at work, and watch us, with their friends, or watch us with, our friends and those things. And we're saying it, but we're also living it at the same time, to where they're like, oh crap. In that instance, it's like, hey, Dad didn't see if I had a good day today or not. Let me reach out and do that. That's a proud, like you said, proud moment.
So when your kid comes to you and they're down because they feel like they can't, right? They can't, whatever it is that they can't. Well, how do you handle that? What do you do? What's your advice? What's worked and what hasn't worked, I guess I'm saying.
Like jumping in to try to fix it doesn't work.
Being a fix it man.
That doesn't work. But I mean, just having them explain it, because they're seeing it differently than when we see it. So it could be this huge mountain to them. To us, it's automatically something we've been through already. So it's already this anthill. We're like, okay, we'll just do this, this, and this. But it's just, I think it's how they perceive it. Just let them talk. Hey, what do you mean they're having issues with this? Tell me why. And just keep asking questions, open-ended questions, and let them do the talking. That's what I've found that works. Jumping in and being like, you know what I do? I do blah, 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 blah. That doesn't work.
I think, like, I always learn something from you guys with older children, and I reflect, because I'll get there. I said, life is like one big row your boat song. Everybody starts their stanza at different times. I'm just jumping in with little kids. But I will tell you that the cool thing about being a dad for younger kids is that I have boys who are going to be experiencing a series of firsts. There's a whole litany of firsts that they're going to experience that they have no clue. I mean, with a 7-year-old who not too long ago learned how to tie a shoe. Well, that's mundane to a 27-year-old kid that has already gone through that. But for me, I'm experiencing a lot of first. And so when you're saying what happens when you get that can't, what do you do? I mean, you got to let them go through some of that stuff. I mean, there's going to be things that they're going to have to experience. I mean, even to the point where my oldest is giving himself a bath. I mean, that's pretty cool, you know, to do that. Now, granted, there's sometimes I'm like, look, smelling pits, get back in there.
Don't tell him what I used to do, if y'all remember that.
Like, yeah.
I use the whole ring of shampoo every night.
But that's the cool. That's the cool
3
part.
hours.
It's just going to be a series of firsts. So with that, it's going to come some of the letdown. You know, there's going to be some challenge. How much can I, you know, just watch and observe and let loose and let them do what they have to do. I can bore you to tears on some experiences we had even through this past basketball season, where I was trying to change Ethan's jump shot. I mean, the boy he can shoot. He's left-handed. He can shoot, but I didn't like his shot because I didn't like his form, you know, and I'm sitting over here trying to get the perfect form rolled off. And you know, we had this thing called, where's the beef? I said, get that balance, you know, get the elbow,
balance,
you know,
elbow, elevate,
eye coordination and follow through. I yelling at him in practice, where's the beef? Where's the beef? You know, but realizing the shot that he has is good and it works. So, you know, you just got to kind of let up
more over time. Yeah,
exactly. That's right. Exactly.
Well, so, and I know I keep going back to Megan, but it's spot on to what you said. Okay, so I just said she started this weekend to her rotations first time. You know, so Monday she goes in surgery all day, comes out a little excited, good day. Tuesday she goes in, she gets there really, really early. She's leaving the hospital at 8:30 at night. She's ready to throw in the towel, rough day, you know, she's frustrated. Second day, and she's like, you know, because she knows she's supposed to be back at the hospital at 5 a.m., right? So she's 8:30, 5 a.m., but then that day goes the next day, and she gets out at like 3 something. So she calls me on all that, and we're talking about it, and it's what you just said, Eric. It's the newness, right? It's learning something new and going through something new. And any time in life you're starting something new and you don't have that experience and knowledge, it's hard.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to get down on yourself because you don't feel good about what you're doing. You don't feel smart. You don't feel like you're at the top of your game and all that, you know. So every time you step up, and I see this a lot, you know, with older kids and all that, when they're stepping into a new, you know, college, or they're stepping in a new class, or stepping into a new job. Well, that's no different than your boys when they're stepping into, you know, your son's going to middle school next year. That's new. It doesn't matter. This cycle in life, it never stops. And so anytime you're learning something new, you have to find a way to be positive, but you got to also find a way to understand. Give yourself some grace, because you don't know what you don't know. And I think that's where people beat themselves up a lot. You know, Stephanie said there's nothing better than a text from your college kid asking if you want to grab lunch and a pedicure. I mean, true. It's true, you know. And when you get those calls, when you get the interaction, it's great. Amy said, you know, help them see the effort they put into the activity instead of the perfection. I said, nobody's perfect.
Right.
Nobody's perfect. And I think that's so important. You know, always try to get, and that's what I'm saying. We have type A kids, right? Most of us, you know, and they're wanted. These kids nowadays are extreme. I couldn't spell AP. Couldn't even spell it. Didn't even know what AP meant, you know? Never even, they wouldn't have let me in. I mean, I might have been in to go in and get their trash out and take it to the dumpster.
Right. I'm just bringing the erasers
AP class.
Or the markers to class. Hudson told me the other day, he's like, they want to put me in advanced AP or governor school, whatever, English. He's like, I don't even like English. That's how he said it. That's how he said it. I'm like, bro, that's what we speak. And he's like, no, Dad, the writing and the reading, all that stuff. He's like, I'd rather be bored and get an A and all that stuff in English. He's like, it's just not fun for me. Yes, I got the grades to go through it, but like they're very type A. And like, I'm like, I wouldn't be able to deal with him. And I say that in a good way, deal with him to be in an AP class if he's so hard on himself every day, because he gets a B and he's like, Dad, I mean, he's going to grade this and get up there. I'm like, bro, like, I don't care. I don't care. Bro, I was a fantastic C student, and I didn't even do my homework. We call it subcontracting. Someone did mine. Like,
Laney,
Laney
got exactly. Laney got a high B in a class the other day and called her mom. She's just like, I can't believe I got a B. I can't believe I got a B. I'm like, B, man, I'm telling you what, B.
I can still play ball with all D's. Like, let's go.
Hey, is Devo on the side of the road in Wilkesboro?
Man,
I'm worried about him.
He's trying to get on, but
I'm worried about him.
This is the first time on the.
You might need to shoot us a text and tell us you're all right.
Devo don't have no Wi-Fi running up down 421. You know they shut down running.
Y'all can't see this, but I keep trying to let him in different ways, in like 50 different ways. Oh, I know where he's at now. Check this out. All right.
He got some pizza.
Bro, you gonna come up in the podcast live and look at the pizza joint right now?
That's
what's up, man.
Y'all need to bring me a pizza. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Hey,
y'all been joking me. I've been on the call the whole time trying to
talk to you. We were trying to figure out if you got stranded in Windy Gap.
Yeah. Nah. Hey, good stuff, y'all guys picking up and putting down. First and foremost, shout out to A5A. Just have 4 new line brothers cross tonight, so we chapter brothers. So we're extremely proud of them. But back to the subject at hand. One thing that I think is extremely important, and what I tried to do. Well, actually, first let me back up. In our family, Heather's the linchpin. Like, she holds it all down. Like, I'm just. I don't even know why I'm there sometimes, but she like really puts it down and keeps the family together. She's the despot of the oikos. It's some that's the only Latin I know though. But anyway, I think it's extremely important to possibly try to present some stress tests for your kids. Like, I try to put my kids in situations where they may not be as successful as they desire, because while they're still in our bubble, I want them to fail in a safety zone or a safety environment, or one where I can kind of take away some learning experiences from that. So that's one thing that I always try to do. When it comes to finances, that's my gift. Like, I can rub 2 nickels together and almost get $5. Like I'm a win when it comes to money. And so we've always talked about that. And the one thing, just had a conversation this week, like baby girl getting ready to graduate in a few short weeks. And she was like, yeah, I got to get ready to take the GRE. And mom was like, oh, I'll pay for that for you. And then her graduation announcements, and she was like, oh, I'll pay for that too. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing that? Like, for the year 2024, this chick has made more money than I have. And she in college as a full-time student. Right. And I just play like I'm in college. But it's a wonderful thing when you have an opportunity to see that light bulb goes off and your kids get it from being able to put them in situations. Like, here's $10. Like, yeah, you go out with your friends and y'all kick it, and you just got to make some tough choices. All right, you want to go to the movies? Well, you better go to the $5 movies, because that one that costs $11.50, you ain't gonna be able to see the whole movie. They're gonna kick you out at halftime. And
you ain't eating.
You ain't getting no popcorn, or you be like, better catch somebody else's bucket. But yeah, like,
we all laughing because we done that before. Like, y'all done.
Hey, if she'd have gone to App State, she could have gone to King Street and watched 10 movies.
Right.
Dollar movies.
I was getting ready to say the $2 movies, but I don't even know if that's such a thing. But growing up, we used to have like the $2 movies, like back in Winston. Actually, Matt, I think over there on the other side of town in Kernersville off of Sedgefield, that used to be like a 99-cent movie place that my parents used to take us to.
Military, you can go, our first responder, you can go to the Grand every Monday for $5 movies. Don't think?
Yeah. Hey,
that's why Matt don't ever answer my phone calls on Mondays.
Not on Mondays. We're going to the
movies. So you can't call Matt on Mondays, and you can't catch him on Thursdays because he eats Salisbury steak.
So, Salisbury steak
with the Chapmans.
The good doctor. the good doctor.
Dr. Chapman.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I
good
think
that
you're right though. You're right about letting them fall when they're, and we've talked a lot about this, but letting them fall, but teaching and picking them back up and picking them back up and letting them know part of life is falling, man. Part of
Right.
life is skinning
Right.
your knees. And it's okay to skin your knees. I want to say this because real quick, and you might not be there with your boys, Eric, but you're not too far off. You've probably been there, Devo, with your girls. I know you've been there with your kids too there, but relationships, right? This is, and Amy and I had this conversation a little bit earlier today about younger kids and relationship, and how do you handle that? How do you talk about, how do you tell your little girl when some little jerk breaks her heart, and how can you sit there and make her understand that, listen, all he really is worried about is playing his video games, and his mind can think in 5-minute increments, so
Always got
you're worried about, and you're thinking, and look, I've been through this with my girls and all that, when they get their heart broken, how do you handle, the broken heart? And it can happen to the boy just like it can happen to the girl, but yeah, talk about that.
I haven't dealt with heartbreak as far as a boy goes, but I dealt with like not making a sports team with my daughter, like all middle school, like that, especially being an athlete and being a coach and being that. And then, you, like you said, you want your kids to be better than you at everything. So when they come home and you see how much work they did or didn't put in, it makes it a little bit easier when they're crying and upset. You're like, you just started practicing yesterday. Like you weren't going to make it anyway. But that heartache to them at that age, like the world's crumbling. Like the world is crumbling. I got to go back to school, my friends, I'm not going to make the team, all those things. That's brutal. That's a brutal place to be. That was not fun to middle school.
Oh man, that's a great example. And I'll let somebody else talk, and I'll go back to a story about Laney, or I'll tell a story about Laney now.
Well, before you tell your story, let me just jump in because, like, when I was in 9th grade, I got cut from the baseball team, and don't tell nobody, but it broke my heart because I couldn't hit a curveball. Still can't hit a curveball. But what I tried to keep in the back of my mind with my girls growing up, like their social circles are everything. And to me, I didn't make the team. Yeah, I was devastated. I was a little embarrassed, but like 2 days, like I'm good. Like we still cutting up in the cafeteria and we keep it pushing, right? But their social circles are so valuable and so sewn in to the very fabric of who they are. Like it's their entire world. And so I had to learn how to be a little sympathetic to that, and how to make sure I choose my words carefully. And not be like, all right, get over it. Like it's one thing. Like in 3 months, you're gonna have another opportunity to join something else, and it's gonna be the next greatest thing since sliced bread. So those are tough lessons to learn for me as a dad, and learning how much I can push and how much I can't push. Again, like Josh said, you always want your kids to do better than you, and my kids are on a great trajectory for that. And so I'm loving the view from where I am. But when they have heartache, you got to listen first and then try to coach them through the situation and hope, that you can kind of pull them back to center and share that this really isn't the end of the world. We just got to do one day at a time until we get to that sweet spot.
Sure. Well, and what Stephanie said, we didn't have social media back then. It wasn't as instant then. Like now, like Hudson walks out of practice, and I'm like, hey, who made the team or who got cut? He's like rattled off the list. I'm like, we ain't even left the parking lot yet. He's like, well, they snapped. Everybody snapped everything. I'm like, that's back then. You didn't know till like the next day or like the first game. Yeah. Like, bro, you went on the team. Like, right. Did you see me at practice? Did you see me at practice? No, I'm not on the team. Now they know. Like now.
Yeah, I think a big one.
Hey, go ahead and tell your Laney story because I'm over here flirting.
Yeah, I'm watching you, dog.
I ain't got nothing to talk about. They talking about law.
Yeah, this is a good one for Laney, and I'll tell you, this is one of the hardest things we went through with Laney. So Laney, big, go getter, right? So she goes into freshman year playing soccer at Reynolds, and she's captain of the soccer team, and is getting pulled up to varsity every few games. So going into sophomore year, Laney's going to go. It's foregone conclusion. She's going to varsity, and it was so weird. It was the weirdest dynamic that I saw because I coached, helped coach the JV, and then I was coaching an indoor team, and there was a couple of girls that they started showing out playing. They were doing well in indoor, and Laney shows up to tryouts, and they put her on JV, and she had a good tryouts, and they put these other girls, and it was the way it happened. Now the way it happened was bad. The way they did it was bad. Is she thought she had it made, had gone and played really well at a tournament preseason tournament, and they called her over, and she was one of the first, and the parents are all standing out at midfield, and they basically called her over and said, "Hey, Laney, you're going to be on JV, but you're going to be a captain again. Thanks for everything you're doing. Keep working hard." And then she had to take the walk of shame. They did it to her and this girl named Anna. Those two girls, and they were two of the first to go through to step up, and they're taking the walk of shame. And then to the parents, and then everybody else, is going. I didn't have a problem with them putting her on JV. That's all good. But I had a problem with the way they did it, right? Because I coached soccer at Reynolds, and the way that we told two young men that we thought were going to be on varsity, they thought they were going to be varsity. The way we told them is we called them over in the middle of practice and said, "Hey, you're not quite there. You didn't quite make it. Why don't you go ahead and grab your bag and go ahead and leave with dignity?" And so, but we had them off to the side, not taking the walk of shame across the field, right? It was brutal. And so I'm really good friends with the coach, and I had to talk with him after. I was like, "It's the way you did it, bro. It wasn't that you put her on JV. That's good to go. That's fine. She can keep working." All right. Back to it was one of the hardest lessons she ever went through, right? And then COVID hit, right? So COVID hit. So that year, their sophomore year, even got canceled, right? Most of it. And then next year she goes on as a junior, and she has an incredible year, right? So she's on varsity, has an incredible year. Senior year, she's captain for the soccer team. Her and this girl named Olivia. It was the problem. The problem was they had 12 seniors on this team that were all seniors, right? And these are her friends. These are her peers. How can you be a good captain with all your peers when they're pissed off at you that you're the captain, and they don't want to listen at you because of just what Stephanie has said? Social media, that interaction of girls. This team could have been one of the best teams in the state, and they were just average because of all this, way to put it, girl stuff. They couldn't get it. They couldn't.
We can say it. It's our podcast, The Geese.
Yeah. They couldn't get it together. But that, to this day, that whole dynamics from going what Laney went through, it was brutal to her. It was brutal, but it's hard to work.
Yeah, I listened to the sorry, Matt. I listened to the first part of Kirk Herbstreit. We'll have to go listen to it. If y'all are listening, listen to Kirk Herbstreit's thing the other night. He was on there, and it starts out with talking about failing. And his thing was, I don't have a problem with my kids failing, and I'm going to let them fail. And then it was probably like a 30-minute podcast, but it was basically Kirk. And Kirk's Ohio guy, Ohio State guy, NFL guy, analyst. His kids play Cincinnati. His kids are playing what. So him giving that perspective, like, I'm not gonna helicopter it. I'm not gonna fight the battles for them. I want them to fail. Yeah. I want them to fail because somebody, I think Amy said earlier, and we talked about it before, is failing forward. You got to fail, and then you got to get up, and you got to learn from it. But his whole thing was like, I want them to fail. I'm going to be there to help. Hey, I'm going to be there to help, dust you off. But that's part of it, because you get out of high school, you get out of college, you get out in the real world, you're going to have to, like, the kids go to school, they're like, oh, I don't like them. I don't want to sit next to them. I'm not going to talk to them, whatever. But like, bro, what if you got to work with somebody you don't like? And you can't just leave. Like, that's real life. And you have to figure out how to deal with those things each and every day. So
we switched.
Here we go.
And we almost got through the whole thing. Nobody said nothing. Matt's like, you know what? Forget it. Let's do it.
Yeah, stirring the pot again.
Yeah.
But I think an important thing of that too is not only failing forward, but failing fast too. Like
Yes.
I try to teach my kids, or I try to suggest to my kids. And now the fact that if you see a situation that doesn't look advantageous to you or doesn't seem quite right, like bounce. Like you're gonna have so many different opportunities in life, and finding the best one is God sent. And you know, it's a skill. Like you have to really assess the situation all around you, like 360,
True.
like from all different angles and vantage points, and try to figure out, you know, is it going to be a win-win for you?
Right.
Well, how about this? How about this as a question? Do you share your failures with your kids? Do you open up and talk to your kids about the times you've failed and the times you've skinned your knee and all that? I do. It's been a huge part of the way I've parented my kids.
Because I've done a lot more.
You want them to be better than you.
Yeah, I've done that a lot more with Hudson, especially, and it makes it a whole lot easier when what they're failing at or what you're trying to help them with, you've already been there. Like if it's something with my daughter, like some of that girl stuff, you know, all that stuff. But with my son, if it's sports, I can talk to that all day long. I'm like, bro, you drive me absolutely insane when you get off the court. And I'm like, dang, this is my dad. This is my dad talking to me like that. But I think that makes it a whole lot easier. But I've also had to do an approach, you know, obviously Matt and I had conversations and therapists and all of those things, like being able to listen more and then give the advice. But it's tough when you, again, like we talked about, want them to do better than you. And we've been there, right? I've been there 25 years ago. So I should be able to tell you, you should be able to listen to me, but they have to be able to do it themselves. But I think sharing that for him, to him now, even as vocal and as our relationship is now, he's like, Dad, remember when you said you did that? What did you do? When he starts asking questions like that, I'm like, okay, you're listening to me because I'm being able to share these failures with you. You're getting it. And I'm like, dude, you're not alone. I was there when I was 14. I was there when I was 15. Shoot, I was there yesterday and I'm 43. Like same thing, bro. Like it's the same thing. But I think it's that whole thing, Matt, of, you know, Convene and what Convene is. We all have a story. We're all going through this. We're not going through any of this stuff alone. And it doesn't change the fact that we can share that stuff with our kids because I think they resonate with that. And they're like, oh, so you did that too. Like, hey, we're not going to drink. Did you drink, Dad? I did. When? I didn't drink till I got out of high school. Or, you know, whatever it may be. And some parents shy away from that, I think. My parents did. My parents didn't share their failures like that. And, you know, what do? It's like, don't touch the hot stove. I'm going to go touch that freaking hot stove. I'm going to learn it myself. But I think if you share it, the failures on that, and it kind of helps them not have to fail as hard maybe or fall as hard. So,
Eric?
I'm looking forward to it because obviously we don't have those conversations. I'm ready to have the word to ask. Josh, you just mentioned, say, Hudson asked you, did you drink? Yeah, I drank. You know, I don't really have those conversations because it's limited whenever they, you know, do see me drink. You know, it's very, very limited, and I call it sippy cup, and they know that our dad's got sippy cup. You know, so like,
hey, go give me one of Dad's juice.
Sippy cup tonight.
Sippy cup. Dad's got sippy cup. You know, but now
Listen, they ain't gonna be that young forever. You're gonna be able to get by a sippy cup for 2 months longer, bro.
And I think that, you know, like I said, I can anticipate things coming. You know, especially with Ethan want to play in middle school. He's going to ask those questions. Hey, Dad, how do you approach such and such? And I know it's coming, but you know, things are limited to more school related. You know, I have struggles. I'm struggling in this. I don't like this. You know, how do I approach that? You know, we swim around in those things. So again, I said this is really therapeutic because I get to hear it from a vantage point of fathers who have older children who have gone through things, you know, on the caboose side of parenting. You know, we're gonna anticipate some of these stops down the track.
Well, you know, if you go back, I know Josh and I talk about it. You know, my grades were horrible in high school. My grades were my first year, my freshman year, my first semester were not good at UNCG. And then I found, you know, the Marine Corps and I kind of got my head on straight, and that kind of turned around because I wanted to be a pilot, So I went and I had to learn how to study to become a pilot. But I'll never forget, here I am, and they knew the stories. I cheated my way through school. It was honest. My wife used to let them know and all that. But
the fact that we're able to laugh at this as grown men
I learned how to
is
study.
awesome to me.
But I learned how to study when I became a pilot. But then when I said I was going to go back and get my master's degree in counseling, they were like, yeah, right. They didn't help me write my papers. They didn't write my papers. They didn't do any of that stuff. I had to write my papers. And so you can do what you, and the lesson for that for my kids was, well, you can do what you want to do if you put your mind to it.
True.
If you put your mind, and look, we got the 2 doctors up top, and that's impressive, right? Did y'all ever think when y'all are younger that y'all would be going to get your doctorate like you did? And you're a double doctorate, Devo, so
It was the last one. Last one of the group. And it's funny because when I worked in Delaware, we had a panelist. There were four doctors who knew each other. I guess they grew up in Jersey, and they ended up, all 4 of them, getting their doctorate. And I immediately thought of Chris and Devon had been pushing and encouraging, but I was like, whatever, it's for the birds. And then I remember reaching out to him when finally finished, and I said, man, that's kind of crazy, because even while I was sitting in the audience listening to those 4 doctors talk about their relationship and the kindred spirit that they had in each of them, pushing them through medical school, I felt the same way with Devon and Chris because of their stories and struggles through school. And we had that same type of kindred spirit, encouraged me to finally decide to do it. But no, I never thought it, because I had convinced myself in the role that I had, I didn't need it. Right. Because I was like, how many athletic directors have doctorates? It's less than 10%. That's not a need. But the longer you stay in higher ed, it's like, well, you're around it. Self-taught, lifelong learner, you might as well have, a situation where the door's not closed. If you ever have a situation where you ascend to something where a terminal degree is necessary, now you got the prerequisite, keep it moving. And I think Devon probably knows the story about time I applied for a job at Tennessee, and it came down to me and a guy from Missouri. He got the job. And when I called and asked, I said, hey, no worries about, because I'm not going to get everything you apply for, but I just want to know so I can prepare for the next time. And never forget, dear friend, Dr. Darling told me it came down to, the fact that he had a doctorate degree and you didn't, and he was at a Power 5 SEC and you were at HBCU. And I told her then, respectfully, I said, well, I can do something about one of those things. The other thing I can't do anything about. If y'all have a problem with where I work, that's on y'all, not on me. But I didn't want to ever have that door closed for things that required it. And I could do that and go back to school and get that done. And that was really the thing that, when we're talking about failure and having a growth mindset, I just took the sting, took the venom out, and just said, now go do something about it. And now take care of that, and it's done. And I'm pushing Erin to get hers done, because some of that too now at this stage is like, creating expectation for the boys. Like not that it's an end all be all, but it's like, hey, mom and dad, this is the standard, and you'll ascend and do better than we do, and you'll go, and your life partner will be equally yoked to the things that you're doing too. So some of that stretching really kind of started through failure or through a rejection, and saying no because this person has something you don't have. And I was like, well, make sure that'll never happen again.
Right. Yeah.
I had a good friend of mine who, remember back in the day when Wachovia Bank merged, obviously they became Bank of America, right? Wachovia first.
No, Wells.
Oh, Wells Fargo, yeah. Well, he was working in the financial management part, had all his, y'all know this, the series, whatever y'all's calls are. He had been doing it for a long time and was killing it. Had a great portfolio, had a great set of customers and all that. And when that merger went on, he was one of them that was let go. even though his portfolio was better than a lot of customers, was better than a lot of the people. And it was because he did it all without a college degree. He'd been working at Wachovia for a tremendous amount of time, and he lost the job. Everybody that stayed in the position had an MBA, and it was so his certifications didn't really take him very far because he didn't have that piece of paper, of the MBA, which it is what it is. But that was hard on him. That was real hard on him, and it was one of those things that he kicked himself for, not continuing in school, but he was doing well to that point. Hey, real quick question. Amy says, are there certain topics that you guys pass off to your spouse or co-parent, or when you're co-parent? So what do y'all think on that?
Yeah.
Devo's like, mm-hmm, yeah.
Let's start with the menstrual cycle. Like that's the first
yeah.
one to pass away.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is out of my wheelhouse.
There's a ton of them, Amy.
Do tell.
And the second one would be anything dealing with emotions.
Yeah.
Hudson just kind of goes to kind of whoever. Like, I don't force anything with him. Like, I don't try to pass too many things off to his mom or anything like that. But he's, I think it gets to that age where they know who they can go to and what they want to ask and not ask. But when they're younger, it's like, you probably should ask your mom about that. Or, yeah, I'm probably not the best to talk about that with. Maybe you should talk to grandpa.
Yeah.
Like, hey, let's FaceTime Matt real quick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. In our house, like you said, Devo, she took the female stuff, and that female stuff evolves over time, unfortunately, from the early female stuff to now they're with their, long-term boyfriends. And I'm like, you better keep that stuff away from me.
Right. You better get out of here with that, man.
Stuff. Yeah. But here's the thing that goes on in my house. And I really believe this, like, I'm the more laid back, I'm the counselor, I'm the, emotional support, like lifting support, bringing them into that positive mindset, but they call her about a lot of things, not just my son, my daughters, but when my phone rings, I better answer because they talk to her a lot more than they talk to me. Right. When my phone's ringing, there's a reason they're calling me. And a lot of times it's that emotional support or that lift up that they need, right? It's gotten to a point where this is past mom. Now it's time to go to dad for that counseling and that emotional support to get it back on track. And that's just the reality of it. And she, that's what she was saying tonight at dinner, she can be crazy. More like this, where I'm more of the, okay, let's go. Let's get back in here. We can do this, all that.
Matt, it was so bad growing up. When I say growing up, terms of college and post-college years when Robin was still living, to the point where my dad, if we called, he passed the phone over to the mom without even blinking. He was like, hey, Margaret, Eric's on the phone, or hey, Robin's on the phone. And I'm like, no, we called to talk to you. Right. What? Because he was so used to that. Phone ring, boom. Hey, let me speak to mom real quick. Quick. And that was just conditioned to where he just, hand the phone over. And when we were, no, Dad, need to talk to you. I remember when I was pledging, I called him every day. Every single day, I needed to talk to him just to hear his voice to say, hey, you can do this. Because he was like, if you call your mom, she going to come up there to Boone and bring you back home. You ain't going to do that. So there were certain times when I need Dad in this moment, to make it through. But that's I don't think roles that they play.
Yeah, that doesn't change when you get older because my brother's in Idaho, so my brother Mike, my sister's here, so we all talk. I'm like, my dad's like, hey, did you call your brother? I'm like, nah. And like he'll know stuff. Like he still calls dad for this and mom for this, but same thing growing up. It's like, I think that's a generation. Like, hey, your mom's here, your son's on the phone. Like, no. Please don't put me on the phone with her. Like, this is a me and you conversation. Like, don't do it. Because when my brother was in boot camp, when he was in the Air Force in Texas, I mean, he got recycled through somebody put a Snickers underneath his, of his pillow. So he got recycled. And my mom was like, we going, telling my dad, we're like, we're going. I'm like, Mom, we can't just like pull up to the base and be like, can I get my son? I'm like, he ain't yours no more. Like,
Yeah.
the United States government owns him right now, and you can't just go up there. My dad's like, hey, bro, hey, bro, it's fine. Do this, stay in your lane, whatever. And my mom's like, my brother's like, put mom on the phone, put dad on the phone. I don't want to talk to mom. So, yeah, that's
Anthony, man, what's your thoughts? Where you been?
Yeah, Anthony, what up?
What is going on? Y'all doing all right?
Doing good.
Oh, I'm following you. I jump on when I can after work, but well, yeah, I didn't catch all the conversation. I think like my kids have had a little trauma with my separation and divorce, to be honest with you. But I'm blessed that me and my ex-wife we had a good relationship with communicating and making sure that they were cared for during that time. I'm closer to my girls than my son. He's a mama's boy, and my girls are daddy's girls. So that's just how it worked. So my oldest definitely, I love it because she does call me when she had a flat tire in Lexington, and so I drove to Lexington, changed her tire for her, and so like that's a blessing to me to be able to do that, and everything. So but we really co-parent well. I'm blessed with that, and the communication levels that we have. But so we don't really pass things off. We do communicate about the challenges the kids are having.
Yeah, I think Rhonda says it right. All kids need both parents for different reasons, but both parents can cross parent, and you have to be able to. You have to be able to. But it goes back to what we've talked about a lot on this. Is so important is being able to communicate with your spouse or your ex in a positive way. It's like what you're saying. You have to. You got to have these conversations. Yeah.
Can I speak to the topic for a second? And y'all might have covered a lot of ground that I didn't get into, but there's I'm sure everybody's heard about this, but The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. It's a great book. But one thing he talks about, and he doesn't use the word necessarily positive mindset, but he talks about being proactive. And so that's one thing that, especially with my staff and my kids, is two things: is find the win-win, right? Because when someone wins, that means someone else has to lose typically. And we don't, you can't really have a positive mindset if you're trying to win all the time and cause someone else to lose. So I think that's important for developing a positive mindset is how can we find the best possible scenario here? And the second thing is I've always told my kids, have a reason and have a plan. That's all. Like if you mess up, that's fine. Just let's have a reason where we can trace the steps or have a plan. And if it went sideways, like we'll learn from that. But I think, like I said, I didn't hear a lot of the conversation, but like kids nowadays are just so down on themselves, and they make a mistake, they just shut down, and they don't tell it, they don't talk about it because they're so concerned about appearance. And so, and my youngest experience is that my two oldest are okay because they're both in their 20s now. That's crazy, but they're both in their 20s, and so. My youngest struggles with that self-image of like. She feels like she has to be perfect for people to love her. So but just trying to teach them like, hey, you're going to mess up, but like that's fell forward. And I heard that from this guy before is you're going to fail forward.
Yeah.
So
nobody's perfect, right? You're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. So that's good. All right. Coming up on the end. So we're going to go a quick rapid fire round on the way out. All right. Of last thought. So we'll go around, and Eric, we'll start with you.
We'll keep it brief. Growth mindset, I think, starts with me. As long as I'm still continually learning, I think that my family will continue to grow because I set the tone and the temperature for our household, and I think it's important, like Anthony just said, to make sure we're communicating with one another. I think Aaron and I do a really good job of that. But I think the growth mindset really starts with me and setting the tone for how our family ticks, and so that's just something that I take seriously. Next, high expectations that I place on myself.
Yeah, perfect. Devo.
Yeah. So wow, a lot of things are running through my mind right now. I'm reflecting back on Rhonda's comment about our kids need both of our parents, and I think one thing that I regret, and I don't have very many regrets, but one thing I do regret. It's probably even the thing that I'm a little bit jealous of is my wife has a tremendous relationship with our kids, and they run to her for everything. You know what I'm saying? And it's me who gets the call of, hey, I need $50, or hey, the AAA man sounded a little sketchy. Can you come out here and change my tire so we don't have to go through him? Those are phone calls I get. And so, but I'm sitting here thinking to Eric's comment earlier, and I'm thinking all we know is what we know, right? You know, and so like I model a lot of my parenting skills after my pops, and that's not that's not always a good thing. That hasn't always been a good thing. Like, you know, from my counseling background, from working with kids, working with families, and seeing so many dysfunctional things. Like, you know, my dad just did manly things, and I heard my comment, and I was kind of being flippant about it, but like we also, as professional dads, and kind of break this down, we have to be aware of the trend that we get stuck in sometimes, and we have to not be afraid to shake ourselves and get ourselves out of that trend, and to put us in a situation where we may be uncomfortable and we may even fail. But I think it goes back again to that conversation and that relationship that you have with your partner, is just making sure that you're open and honest about, you know what, hey, I felt a little shaky about this. You know, can you coach me up? Can you give me some pointers? Can you give me some suggestions about where to go and where to handle it? You know, Stephanie's comment about being present. Yeah, just shut up sometime and just be in the room. And my wife was chastising me yesterday with love. I'll say that about, you know, do stuff that they want to do. You know, maybe it's just sitting in a room reading a book, or sitting in a room holding her and letting her get comfortable, and then eventually she'll speak. Because like when I get home, I'll be like, hey, how was your day? What you do? What's the top 3 things? What you learned? Boom, boom, boom. I got this checklist, right? And I got to go down my checklist. And then after that, you know, hey, I've done my job. I'm good. You know, and it's not always like that. And people are not always on our schedule. And that's a little later on, E. So people aren't always on our schedule. So we have to make sure that we are present. And we have to make sure that we're being intentional with our time. And like, you know me, like I'm always jonesing for an athletic event and to go somewhere and to shoot. And so I'm like, I always try to couch our times, our outings. Hey, you want to go to this ball game? You know what I'm saying? And like my wife refuses to go to ball games with me. So she's just like, you know, I'm not going. I'll be like, but I'll be back every other inning. Just let me get a couple shots. That's all I need. And she's like, no, either you leave the camera at home or you go by yourself. And so it's again making those conscious decisions to be present and to spend time with the ones you love, or the ones you say you love, the way they want their time to be spent, not necessarily your time or your ulterior motives. So that's kind of like my takeaway. And no, that wasn't short. And yes, and Jimmy Votto.
We'll see y'all next week.
I don't care about time.
Anthony, you got 10 seconds. Anthony, what's your thing? You got 10 seconds.
Man, I already kind of said my piece. And Devon took my time.
All right,
so, you know,
Josh, you got 8 seconds. Go ahead.
I would just say, be present. And I would also say what I've learned is the 80-20 rule, man. Just listen 80% of the time, talk 20. But that's especially with the kids, like just let them talk. They're going to open up when they feel comfortable doing that. You're not going to force them to do it. But make sure you're there to listen. Yeah.
And my 8 seconds is let them know nobody's perfect, right? There's only one perfect person. And it's not any of us on the call, and it ain't none of them. You know, it's our Lord and Savior. Yep. And you know, and just let them know it's okay to fail. It's okay to fail, but when you fail, get up and go harder. Get up and go harder. You can reach, you know, for the stars if you just choose to reach for the stars, or you can quit on yourself. And that's the problem I see nowadays. Too many people quit on themselves. So don't quit. Don't quit. And teach that positive mindset to have, and that growth mindset to let them know if they want to do something, they can do it. I mean, look at us. We've all done some great things, and we are all probably some fools when we're young. So,
Not me.
All right, gentlemen. I can't wait till next Thursday night. Like I said, this is always one of the best nights of the week right here. And so
let's talk about tariffs.
Get Eric off the call. All right, have a good night, everybody.
Come get some pizza.
We'll see you
later.
Holla.
Holla.